911, what's the address of the emergency? My husband's not breathing, he's cold. I just came in our bed, and I turned over, and he's just cold. He's just cold.
So what happened today?
He was just fine, we were fine. I don't know, it didn't make sense.
This was in the months leading up to his death.
Right.
He felt that his life could be at risk.
Right. They suspected Kouri would take part in his death before it happened.
There is a distinct, chilling horror in looking into the eyes of someone who claims to love you, completely unaware that behind their warm smile, they are calculating the exact amount of chemical poison it will take to stop your heart. We often think of monsters as lurking shadows in the dark, but the most dangerous predators wear the mask of a grieving spouse. They sit on daytime television writing children's books about grief and loss, while secretly hiding the encrypted receipts for the lethal illicit doses they purchased in the dead of night. This is the terrifying reality of Eric Richins, a devoted family man who spent years building a beautiful life, only to have it methodically stripped away by the one person he trusted above all others. In the scenic, wealthy mountain town of Park City, Utah, Eric Richins was known as a dedicated father, a fiercely successful businessman, and a man deeply rooted in his community. He and his wife, Kouri Richins, looked exactly like the perfect, idealized American couple. Together with their 3 young sons, they lived a life of absolute luxury, surrounded by snow-capped peaks and high-end real estate. Kouri was a highly ambitious local real estate agent, constantly moving million-dollar properties and looking for her next massive financial breakthrough. Eric, on the other hand, ran a thriving, highly profitable stone masonry business built on years of hard manual labor and honest networking. To the outside world, their marriage was an enviable success story of wealth, love, and family values. But behind the heavy wooden doors of their custom-built luxury home, a quiet, sinister war was being waged in absolute secrecy. Eric had begun to notice a terrifying pattern in his own household. It seemed that every time his wife brought him a special drink or cooked a romantic meal to celebrate a financial milestone, he became violently, mysteriously ill. The first major red flag occurred during a family vacation to Greece. After Kouri handed him a casual drink by the water, Eric spent the night in absolute agony, violently throwing up for hours as his body desperately tried to reject whatever toxic substance had just entered his system. He survived that trip through sheer physical resilience, but the seed of a dark suspicion had been permanently planted in his mind. Upon returning home, he confided his fears to his sister, making a chilling statement that would later haunt investigators. He looked at her and explicitly said, "If anything happens to me, you need to look at Kouri." The domestic tension escalated drastically on Valentine's Day. Kouri brought Eric a seemingly innocent sandwich as a romantic gesture. Within mere minutes of taking just a few bites, Eric's entire body broke out in severe hives. His throat began to tighten rapidly, and he could barely draw a breath. Realizing his life was in immediate danger, he had to search for his son's emergency EpiPen, injecting himself and taking heavy doses of Benadryl just to keep his airway open long enough to survive the night. He told his best friend later that week that he was absolutely convinced his wife was actively trying to kill him. Yet, because of his profound, unconditional love for his 3 young boys and an overwhelming desire to keep his family unit together, Eric stayed. He chose to rationalize the unthinkable, trying to believe that maybe it was just a severe food allergy, a terrible, chaotic coincidence. It was a fatal mistake, born out of a good man's optimism. While Eric was trying to survive day by day, Kouri was secretly living a completely different, highly destructive life. She was drowning in massive, unmanageable debt, that she had hidden from everyone. To fund her reckless real estate ventures, she had been secretly taking out millions of dollars in hard money loans, forging Eric's signature on major financial documents, and completely draining their joint business bank accounts. Her obsession reached a boiling point when she wanted to buy a massive, unfinished $2 million mansion as a speculative investment property. Eric had explicitly forbidden the purchase, knowing it would completely ruin them financially. Kouri quickly realized that as long as Eric was alive and controlling the family finances, she could never access the absolute fortune she desired. To get the money, Eric had to disappear. The state's criminal evidence later revealed that Kouri began texting an acquaintance, a known local drug dealer, asking for something strong, something fast. She specifically requested Michael Jackson stuff, which investigators immediately recognized as a clear street-level code name for fentanyl. She paid hundreds of dollars in cash to secure a small batch of the highly lethal opioid pills. She received this first batch just days before the Valentine's Day sandwich incident. Unsatisfied and frustrated that Eric had somehow managed to survive the initial dose, she went right back to the dealer, demanding a fresh, even stronger batch of lethal pills. On the night of March 3rd, Kouri claimed to her family that they were celebrating. She had finally forced the closing deal on the massive mansion against Eric's wishes, and she wanted to toast to their future. Before going to bed, Kouri mixed Eric a custom Moscow Mule, a cocktail heavily laced with a massive, pure, lethal dose of illicit fentanyl. Eric drank the cocktail, went to bed, and never woke up again. Hours later, in the dead of night, Kouri dialed 911. Her voice on the official recording sounds frantic, screaming hysterically that her husband was cold to the touch and completely unresponsive. When emergency responders arrived at the luxury home, they found Eric lying motionless at the foot of the bed. They attempted CPR, but it was far too late. Eric Richins was pronounced dead at the young age of 39. The initial shock shook the tight-knit community, but what Kouri did next transformed this tragedy into one of the most twisted psychological horror stories in modern true crime history. Instead of retreating into quiet, private mourning, Kouri thrust herself directly into the public eye. Just months after Eric's heart stopped beating, she published a beautifully illustrated children's book titled, "Are You With Me?" The book was specifically designed to help young children cope with the sudden, tragic death of a parent. She went on local television networks, smiling warmly for the morning cameras, sitting on colorful studio couches, and explaining how her husband's sudden passing had broken her children's hearts. She spoke softly about how she wrote this book to bring peace and comfort to grieving families everywhere. In reality, she was actively marketing her own husband's murder as a brilliant promotional tool for her personal brand and career. But while Kouri was on television playing the part of the angelic, grieving mother, the official toxicology report came back from the lab, completely shattering her manufactured reality. The medical examiner discovered that Eric Richins did not die of any natural condition or hidden ailment. His body contained more than 5 times the lethal limit of fentanyl, and the science proved it had been ingested orally. It hadn't been injected or taken accidentally, it was swallowed. Eric had been systematically poisoned in his own home. When police launched a full homicide investigation, Kouri's digital footprint completely unraveled her lies. Detectives recovered deleted text messages detailing the drug transactions. They tracked her personal internet search history, which included chilling queries like, "Can cops force you to take a lie detector test?" "Luxury prisons for the rich," and what is considered a lethal dose of fentanyl. Furthermore, they discovered that just days before the murder, Kouri had secretly attempted to change Eric's life insurance policy to make herself the sole beneficiary. However, Eric had caught on to her financial deceit weeks prior and had secretly changed his estate plans, removing her entirely and leaving his entire fortune in a protected trust controlled exclusively by his sister. The arrest of Kouri Richins sent shockwaves through the true crime world. The image of a beautiful grieving author capitalizing on a book about grief, while knowing she was the exact monster who manufactured that very grief, represents a level of calculated malice that is deeply disturbing. During the explosive court hearings, which were broadcast live to millions of viewers on YouTube, prosecutors laid out the terrifying timeline of financial greed, secret drug deals, and the desperate text messages Kouri sent while trying to cover her tracks. The case of Eric Richins remains a haunting, unforgettable reminder that sometimes the person who vows to protect you in sickness and in health is merely waiting for the perfect moment to ensure you never wake up again. If this terrifying deep dive into the dark reality of the Richins case kept you glued to your screen, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on your notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the world's most chilling criminal minds. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on Kouri's actions and share this video to help us expose the truth behind the masks. Thank you for watching. Stay vigilant, and we